Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent McCory. This is Africa 54. The trek for migrants crossing Europe heading for Germany is testing the strength, resolve and will of tens of thousands of people that are so desperately seeking a better life. Thursday, hundreds, possibly thousands of migrants endured a steady downpour before encountering Macedonian riot police aggression at the Greek-Macedonian border. Well, after some loud, lengthy and testy face-to-face discussions, at least one police officer started hitting some of the migrants with police baton. Soon, the scene became more chaotic as women and children began crying as they retreated to avoid further abuse by the police before being commanded to sit down. A train later pulled up outside the area where the migrants were huddled, but it's unknown if any of the migrants boarded the train. Now, meanwhile, European Commission Chief Jean-Claude Juncker has called for the resettlement of 160,000 refugees across the 28 members of the European Union and a permanent asylum mechanism to cope with the future crisis. Henry Ridgwell reports from London on the latest attempt by Brussels to deal with a massive influx of migrants and refugees.
Even as European lawmakers gathered in Brussels, the flow of refugees onto Europe's shores continued. 2,500 migrants were taken from Greek islands to the mainland Wednesday. The total number of arrivals is approaching 500,000. In an emotive State of the Union address, European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker said it was time for Europe to rally.
The numbers are impressive. For some, they are frightening. But now is not a time to take fright. It is a time for bold, determined, concerted action by the European Union, by its member states and by its institutions.
Greece, along with Italy and Hungary, says it is overwhelmed by the number of new arrivals.
We are proposing a second emergency mechanism to relocate a further 120,000 people from Italy, Greece and Hungary. This has to be done in a compulsory way.
Juncker went on to announce measures to try to combat the causes of the refugee crisis.
An emergency trust fund, starting with 1.8 billion euros from our common EU financial means to address the crisis in the Sahel and Lake Chad regions, the Horn of Africa and the North of Africa. We want to help create lasting stability.
Horrific images of drowned migrants have sparked Europe into action. The EU must act to prevent refugees having to take such risks, says Amnesty International.
For the whole of Europe, we're saying roughly 300,000 at least of resettlement places. Also other forms of routes, humanitarian visas, for example, more places for family reunification.
Amnesty says the entire structure of Europe's asylum process needs rebuilding.
We need to get rid of this notion that only the border countries are responsible for processing and dealing with refugees. And a very important proposal that we have is that we need to see freedom of movement of people once they have been found to be refugees.
The redistribution of some refugees has already begun. These Iraqi and Syrian nationals were transferred from Germany to France Wednesday. But Britain and many Eastern European countries have rejected the idea of compulsory quotas of refugees. Henry Ridgwell for VOA News, London.